Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Ryan. I'm going to be speaking in English. Just quickly before we start, the purpose of this walk is not to just go through the veld and identify everything. That's not what we're looking for. The point is to go through, and I'm going to explain the ecosystem, the biodiversity, the processes that's taking place here to allow this veld to operate like it is at the moment. So we'll look at the nutrients and soils and that type of thing, and how it relates to the high biodiversity that we have right here. Okay, so we're going to spend most of our time walking in this veld down below us. We won't get very far. Every group so far, we've never managed to get more than 100 meters out into the veld. There's a lot to see and a lot of questions, but we'll start actually in the veld behind you. That's a neighboring farm, and they use a completely different method of grazing. So that's selective grazing, and compared to Danie's system over here. So we'll start over there. I'll point out a few key differences, and there's also a very endangered animal that lives there called a sun gazer. I don't know if you'll know what that is. It's a large lizard that's endemic to South Africa. In fact, it's endemic to this high veld grass veld, and it is now an endangered species. Its habitat is under threat due to agriculture, industry, mining, and suburbia, and so its populations have become fragmented. And the concern is that the populations are not able to mix anymore to help to sustain the species. So it's critical that we maintain the habitat that they're still living in. So yeah, hopefully we should see a couple of them popping up over there. So my background is I'm a professional field guide, mostly, but not only. I also farm sheep in the Karoo in Carnarvon. We've got some daughters there, and then I also work for a company called the Biodiversity Development Institute, where I work closely with biodiversity, habitat, and animal diversity and distribution. And so yeah. My big passion is habitat diversity and biodiversity. So, and I'm especially passionate about the smaller things in the veld, and right down to the mushrooms and all those types of things. So that's what I want to share with you today. So as I say, it's not about IDing everything. It's a lot of these things I can't pretend to actually be able to ID. This habitat, not that the habitat's new for me, but this particular veld is new, and there's everywhere you go, if you go into different habitats all the time, there's always new things to see. So I won't be able to identify everything, but I say it's not the point. I understand the processes and the cycles, and that's what I'm here to explain to you. Okay, I don't know if you see this short grass patches. If you see this tall clump, look behind it, in that between those little weeds, there's a sun gazer, just his head and his shoulders sticking out, sitting there. So they live in colonies. Ovalk is the Afrikaans name, yes. And so it is an endangered species. It's a lizard, yes. It's a type of girdled lizard. They've got sharp, spiny scales on the body. They can get quite big. The largest recorded one is 40 centimeters. So it's quite a large lizard. And there are colonies of them in the veld we're going to walk to now, but that veld is so dense, they're very difficult to spot them. We've seen a couple of burrows, but you can't, we haven't seen any there yet. I want to just explain to you, so this veld that we've got on this side of the fence is grazed very differently to that side. You know, Danie's high impact. This is now selective overgrazing or selective grazing, and it results in quite a different looking veld. So if you just scan with the naked eye, if you just scan the grass, the tops of the grasses, it all looks the same. It's all one species basically that's dominating. If you look at the grass inflorescence, it's basically one. If you look that side, you'll see a whole variety of different shapes of grass inflorescences, which indicates much higher diversity of plant species on that side. So this side we've got that you can visibly see two dominant species, and the second one here, the shorter one, is the quirk, which is now selectively grazed, which keeps it short. Whereas on this side, okay, it's all throughout the whole day it's been trampled down, but it was about this high this morning. And yeah, so selective grazing allows the animals time to sit here and pick out what they want to eat, and they leave the stuff that they don't like. Whereas Danie's system forces them in and they eat everything flat, and that helps to, in the long term, start to increase the diversity of species coming through. So grass veld goes through 3 main stages. We start off with a pioneer phase where, much like in the middle of a dirt road or something like that, it's hard, baked, unprotected soil, which is low in nutrients, and plants, good healthy plants, struggle to survive there. So you'll start to get pioneer grasses that come through, things like these small little grasses that have got like oils and gum in them, and they've got short small leaves, they've got very little nutrition in them, and they are the ones that start trying to begin the process of softening the soil, loosening it up, adding nutrients, and then it moves from that stage into something eventually like this. This felt is it's not as good as that felt, but it's not awful. I mean, I'd say it's a subclimax level now. You can tell it's not pioneer anymore because there's no bare soil. Okay, so the soil is covered, so it's sort of somewhere between the two. However, from what I've heard from Danie, this kind of stays like this at its best, and it's because of the grazing practices that prevents it from ever getting like that. Yes, there is chicory around here.
Been oversown.
Nothing's been sown in here. Well, how do you mean?
Natural.
Yes, everything's come in here naturally. Danie hasn't sown anything, he hasn't tilled, he's done nothing with this veld other than start with a high impact 8 years ago. And every year he comes through, more biodiversity seems to have appeared out of the blue. Things he's finding. Seeds get in, have amazing methods of moving around and appearing. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I want to point out what's happening right here. So this small bare patch in the soil there was actually dung around here. You can see the old dung here. So that's one of the big things I'm going to show you, is all the nutrient cycling is key. So this, first of all, you can just see the density of the grass. The soil remains covered, even though people have been trampling over here all day, and the one truck turned around in here and everything. You still have to dig down quite deep to get into the soil. And so this, with the climax grass veld, the grass has covered the soil to such a good extent that it retains moisture much better than anything else. Pioneer grass veld with that bare soil, I mean, that's baked, and it's almost turned into like a clay surface, whereas this has retained its moisture, and by retaining moisture you allow access to other organisms in here, especially fungus, various species of fungi. I was blown away by how many different species of mushrooms we've found in this area here. And the fungi is key in soil health, because fungi, for one thing, it helps to reduce pH, but it also acts as a separate. So fungus operates in a variety of methods, but you get some parasitic fungus, and the key fungus we're looking at here, we will see, is saprophytic fungus, which is fungus that breaks down organic material and puts it back into the soil. So we'll start seeing that. The key part of this, the soil health here, this soil is almost on steroids. It's really, really healthy. This grass veld was grazed flat to that short grass that you've seen that side 8 weeks ago, and it looks like this now. So that's the key to that, is the soil health and the nutrients in the soil that's allowed these plants to come back so quickly and so densely. So the cow dung, when the cattle push through here, it's covered in dung. First organisms to arrive to sort it out are the dung beetles, but there's often so much dung that the dung beetles can't, and it can't get rid of all of it. And then the next phase that comes in and starts to break it down are things like fungus, and if it's allowed to dry out further, then termites will also start to break it down. But yeah, so the fungus is really critical, and I'll show you a few other places here where we'll actually see the mycorrhiza, the body of the fungus. Now it's broken it down in other spots where you'll see it's actually turned that cow patch. You take the crust off it, underneath it is just pure soil. So that whole process. But one of the key parts of this is that the soil is covered very well, and it is able to keep that moisture in there. You need moisture for the fungus to actually survive in the soil. Dry soil has got much less of it. Okay, and then again, notice the grass, much broader, thicker leaves, much more palatable. They're soft, and yeah, so that it's gone from various stages through to this is proper climax grass veld. Okay, and then one other thing I want to point out is you'll see a number of broad-leafed plants. Many of you might know some of these as weeds, but they're not acting like weeds in this kind of veld because, so here, for example, is the gifapple, solanum, some places also known as satansbos. You get many species of them. I think there's over 30 species throughout South Africa, possibly more. They all look very, very similar, and they all have the potential to grow like weeds. However, in veld like this, they're actually starting to get outcompeted. So that you'll start over time. I mean, remember, this is only 8 weeks. So if we give this, Danie's system has the cattle coming through here for 1 hour every year. so in that time, I would bet many of these plants with these weed type plants would actually have been outcompeted already by that stage. They get suffocated and choked out of climax veld, where to the point where the good grasses, the decreaser grasses, the palatable grasses that you want, outcompete them to the point where they will start getting less and less in the veld. So as we walk through here, you'll see a lot of this and a lot of other things, but at no point are they dominant at any spot here. So it's just here and there you'll find clumps of them, but it's never able to take over. It can't anymore because the grass is more vigorous, it grows faster, and it starts to choke it out at the bottom. Yes.
Dung beetles.
Yeah. There has been some assessments done. I don't know the full details of it, but high dung beetle diversity for sure. Yeah. Obviously, where the fruit they fly, and they find most species fly. In the grassland, I would say 90% of the species do fly, but they find the freshest dung, and they've got a sense of smell that can pick up the dung scent from up to 10 kilometers away. So the majority of beetles are probably close to the cows, but we have been finding a few dung beetles here already.
And the use of acaricides and anthrobintics that would be detrimental to them, as Danie cut all of that out.
Yeah, I mean it's insects in general are going to get affected by that. So yeah. But Danie's cut all of that out. There's no pesticides whatsoever going through this veld. So you'll see as we walk, there's a huge insect diversity. There's all sorts of things jumping out and flying around, and the key thing that's interesting for me is that you're finding the three main, I would say, functions of the insects. We've got the decomposers, termites and so on, that are breaking down the organic matter. We're finding the herbivores that are actually, feeding on the plants. But we're also finding, and this is the most critical thing to maintaining the healthy balance, is there's a lot of predatory insects that help to keep those herbivore insects in check. So at the end of the day, the whole secret to maintaining a healthy habitat is balance. And to have balance, you need predators. They've done studies across the world in all sorts of habitats, from coral reefs to rainforests and whatever. Predator diversity is key to maintaining the whole process of it. So we've got lacewings we've been finding. There's various carnivorous beetles, mantids. There's been dragonflies, all sorts of things. The lacewings are particularly interesting because their larvae are predatory on aphids and many of the small pest insects that feed on plants, especially in agriculture, croplands and so on. Lacewings are very, very important. And the other one we've been finding a lot of are ladybird beetles, those little, and they're predators also on small, the adult and the larvae, predators on pest insects. So yes, the bird's nest and some magic mushrooms too. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so here's some cow dung that's actually in the process of being decomposed, and if I break it open, you can actually see the fungus inside it. It's actually quite dry now because the ants have got into it, but you can actually see the fungus on top. The mushrooms are a type of magic mushroom, I think, there, and there's a bird's nest fungus inside on the edge here. Little cup with looks like eggs in the middle. Those little eggs are the spores, and what happens when it rains is the raindrop falls on that, and that little spore bounces out and jumps out, and then that's how it spreads its spores around. And the other one would be mostly distributed by wind. So these ants have got in here. They're probably feeding on other organisms, grubs and things that are inside here, because these ants are probably predatory. quite a wide variety of legumes, and that's the legumes obviously what we need to fix nitrogen, to get one of the ways that nitrogen is put back into the soil. And quite a few field mushrooms. So most of the mushrooms we've been finding here are growing on the dung, breaking the dung down, but there's also mushrooms that are growing on leaf litter and organic plant material and so on, like these field mushrooms here. You can see the quirk grass is growing very thickly here. Yes, another one. Excellent. This is all the fungus spores. This is the body of the fungus. The actual mushroom itself is the equivalent of the flower or the fruit. That's what produces, that's the reproductive part of this stuff growing in here. But just look how dense this grass is. At no point can you really see the soil. It's completely protected. And you have to dig to find it. Yeah, all that organic matter on top. Yeah, a lot of those seeds actually get passed through the guts of the animals, and it comes out in the droppings and things too. So here we can see an old cow pat that's now just the crust that's left. The crust is not really used by anything, even the fungus doesn't eat it, and so that gets dried and hard in the sun. But underneath, you break it open, we've just got beautiful soil. So the job of the decomposers has been happening here, and this one's got ants in it, and the ants must be the last stage of the cycle. But yeah, it's been transferred straight through. In 8 weeks it's turned from dung straight to soil. You can see some of the diversity of wildflowers creeping through. And that felt there, I didn't see much diversity of flowers. This felt we've got all sorts of interesting flowers. If you just get down and look, you'll see them. And actually the cattle do graze it, and then plus the flowers bring in the insects, various pollinators and all sorts of other species that start feeding on it, and that brings in the predators and so on and so forth, and helps to drive that cycle of life. That's Sierung, oxalis. Yeah, quite tasty. Yeah, these ones are excellent. This particular species is really quite good. I like it.
It's not a legume, it's not a clover.
No.
It's got a yellow flower and a pink flower.
This one's got a pink flower. That's quite a tasty one. Ooh. So watch out here, there's a aardvark hole. Another key animal in the grass veld, as well as the karoo and savanna, that in the soil cycle and the soil health is aardvark. And I know some people consider it to be quite a pest because of the holes. I know in the karoo we battle on some of the earth dams where they break the actual foundation of the wall down, but they actually play an integral and absolutely critical role in the whole cycle of the soil. And so they've done studies, and they found in the vicinity of a couple of meters around an aardvark burrow, you almost always find an increase in diversity of plant species. And we can see here we've got this little silago growing here. There's a few other different species of plants here, and the aardvark, by bringing these soil from deeper down up to the surface, is bringing up all sorts of minerals, nitrogen, there's calcium, there's extra phosphorus, and all sorts of other minerals that come up with it, and that helps to increase that biodiversity in the vicinity of the hole. Plus the holes actually help, especially in dry habitats, they help with water retention. The activities of aardvark, they don't just dig one hole. Throughout the night they dig dozens and dozens of holes of varying sizes, and especially in habitats like the karoo, it's really important for water retention in the soil, preventing it running off. Here you don't have so much of that problem because this grass cover is extremely dense, so it will in itself trap it. But yeah, aardvark are extremely important in the whole soil cycle. And so I want to point out this beetle that we got here. I don't know if everyone can see it. It's a small orange and black beetle, quite flattened. It's known as a net wing beetle because of the veining in the wings, is in the sort of looks like a net structure. So this is the adult, and they are mating. And the adult beetles feed on pollen and nectar, so that you'll find them on the grass. They feed on the grass pollens as well as on the flowers of all these other plants. But so obviously pollination is important, but the key thing here, especially in this veld, is the larvae of this beetle feed on fungus. So we've got this high diversity of fungus growing here. You need something to help keep that in control. And these beetles are extremely common in this veld at the moment. So beetles are the most diverse organisms on Earth. There's more species of beetles than anything else living on land. So yeah, beetles very fundamental to the ecosystem. But yeah, we need something to control the fungus. If the fungus gets out of control, you're going to have a problem. So you need creatures like this that will help to maintain that balance that I've been talking about. Plantago has become naturalized. So alien invasive species that come in, or alien species, operate on different levels. Some of them are really bad and just take over and destroy everything. And others like this become naturalized, where they almost integrate into the ecosystem and they actually fed on and they pollinated and they've almost become an indigenous plant. And plants like that actually they're cosmopolitan, they grow almost all over the world now. Just because of that, they kind of integrate into the society of plants, you know, if you know what I mean. The sedges. So the sedges tend to start coming in where the grass starts to hold a lot more moisture. Sedges generally if we head down to the bottom there, the grass veld will change, a lot more sedges dominating. But the fact that they're growing here means that there's quite a lot of moisture in the soil, and it's not generally eaten that much, but under this high density grazing it is eaten. Yeah. Yeah.
It's as if it's burned inside.
So that's actually been attacked by a fungus of some sort. Yeah.
It's like smut almost.
Yeah, which is a type of fungus, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So these are spores.
Yeah. 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 Okay. And you'll also see these this tree growing as a soetdoring, sweet thorn. Used to be called acacia. The Australians had a political thing against us with the science in the science departments, and they took the name acacia away from us. So it's now Vachellia carew, but it's actually a very useful plant. It's got a mycorrhizal association with bacteria and so on also, and it fixes nitrogen. So you'll find plants underneath it grow extremely lushly. It's very, very high nitrogen composition in that soil. So that's why you'll see these plants grow so lush.
Just grass.
No. So this high veld grass veld gets too cold in winter for trees to really take over. So the frost kills seedlings, and then also the grass veld tends to burn from time to time, which also tends to kill it off. So I mean, the evidence is here for you all to see. I mean, this grass veld is amazing. So, but it's fantastic to see how dense everything grows underneath these acacia trees with the nitrogen. Okay, I think they want us to start heading back up there. So Danie believes that the weeds are actually part and parcel of it. And natural grass veld, if you go into a grass veld reserve, you will find a lot of these broadleaf weeds or weeds
But
yeah,
just the difference.
yeah, absolutely.
Not whether it's good or bad.
They're kept out of that veld by trampling and grazing pressure, because these broadleaf plants actually need the veld to be at a certain level for them to actually survive, because they can't survive so well in like a pioneer stage. The soil's too harsh, so it needs to have softened up enough for them to start growing. Okay, in terms of biomass, there's more grass, but in terms of species diversity, there's a lot more things that aren't grass in grass veld than you think.
Yeah.
And so healthy grass veld should have a mix of broadleaf as well as grass species.